Howdy y'all, Jeff here. A couple weeks ago, I was asked to be the speaker at a local Rotary Club luncheon. Tell my story, including my guide dog journey. Stay tuned and join me to see my entire speech. Ladies and gentlemen, prepare yourselves for a speech so insightful, even I can't see the end of it. Many of you know me, but by the end of this talk, I want everyone here to have a better understanding of who I am, what I've been through, what I've overcome, and what the future has in store. We all face challenges in life, and we deal with them in many different ways. As Darby said, I'm Jeff Peterson, the founder and owner of J&R's Hardware right here in Porter. I grew up nearby in Kingwood, graduated from Kingwood High School class of 2001, where I served as student body president my senior year. I continued on to Texas A&M and graduated with a BS in civil engineering. I'm also legally blind as a result of Stargardt's disease, a form of juvenile macular degeneration that affects about 1 in 9,000 people. People often ask me, what exactly do you see? Stargardt's directly affects the macula, the small center of the retina, which is responsible for crisp, detailed vision. To understand what it's like to lose your vision from the center outwards, I want you to imagine a coffee mug sitting on a granite countertop. When I look closely at this mug, say several inches away, I can see the mug and I can see the countertop underneath. As I begin to move away, I get to a distance of about 1 foot. The mug begins turning translucent, and I can start to see the countertop through the mug. As I continue further away to a distance of about 4 feet, the mug has now completely disappeared, and all I see is a continuous granite counter surface. It's a pretty awesome party trick. Unfortunately, I'm the only one that can see it. The misconception with people who lose their vision from the center outwards is that we see a black hole in the middle of our vision, but that's not the case. The brain is an amazing thing, and it makes up for missing information by filling in with the good information still available through the working photoreceptors in the eye. As a child, I had 20/20 vision. I grew up doing Little League sports, going to church groups, Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts. I was a pretty good student. I faced all the challenges of a child trying to find their place in life, but being blind was not one of them. As I approached high school, I was encouraged by my parents and some of my friends to get involved in school activities and start to broaden my horizons. So I spent the summer before high school working really hard, running every single day to get in shape for cross country, and I worked my way onto student council, logging more volunteer hours than anyone else. I was so excited for high school. As someone growing up watching the 80s and 90s sitcoms like Saved by the Bell, I knew that high school was going to be my time to do amazing things. Freshman year started off great. I was having a blast. I had so many new friends. I was involved in a lot of clubs and activities. School, classes were going great. And then I started noticing a change. It began with difficulty seeing the overhead projectors, followed by the whiteboard, then textbooks, and even faces. So, at first, I could change my angle at which I looked at things, reduce the glare, no glare, can see, problem solve, move on. That didn't last for long. So next, I came up with excuses. I told my teacher that I forgot my glasses and asked if I could move closer to the board. That worked for a while. In classes where the teacher was calling us to read, I would read ahead and memorize paragraphs. And so then when I was called on, I would recite from memory. That worked up until the day that my English teacher started calling on us randomly, and I was stumbling over the words of Romeo and Juliet. So, naturally, I faked my way through the rest of my freshman year. You might be wondering why I didn't tell people I was having trouble seeing. I was scared. I was afraid I had done something wrong and I was going to get in trouble. You see, when I was in middle school, I did a lot of welding in my industrial technology classes. And I thought that's what had caused the problem I was going through now. This was back in the days when LASIK surgery was becoming big. And I remember people talking about how expensive it was, and I didn't want to burden my parents with the expense of a surgery because of something I had done wrong. That's the logic of a teenager. So, like I said, I faked my way through freshman year and the following summer. Sophomore year was approaching, and I was so excited to start driver's ed. I had been looking forward to this my entire life. Growing up, my family drove everywhere. Long road trips cross country. I loved the highway. I loved cars, 18-wheelers, trains. I loved songs about these things. I was so excited to finally get my chance to get behind the wheel. So right before sophomore year, I went into the optometrist for my annual eye exam. All I could see was the big letter E. That meant I had 2200 vision. And there was nothing that the optometrist could do with prescriptions to improve my acuity. So I was sent next to an ophthalmologist who sent me to a retina specialist at Baylor College of Medicine. I underwent tests, and I was diagnosed with Stargardt's disease. In addition to going to doctors, the school districts began doing their tests, trying to figure out what accommodations and services they needed to provide to me. The administration was wonderful. Some teachers were great, but some were not. There were teachers who said it was not fair to provide accommodations to me when other students didn't get them. How does that make any sense? Sophomore year was starting off in turmoil. I was scared of the unknown. I had just turned 15 that week, and on top of this, I was going through all of the uncertainties and insecurities that a teenager goes through. So, back to school. They provided me with extended time on tests and large print. Okay, nowadays we have technology. We have tablets. It's wonderful. Does anyone know what large print looked like back in the 1990s? Literally, to double the size of print, it would double the size of a textbook. So it would make it twice as wide and twice as tall. So I was given a stack of textbooks that was this big. That doesn't fit in a backpack, and it's kind of heavy, so it didn't really work for me. So I buried my nose in the book, I looked closely, and that's how I got by. I worked really hard to prove that this was not going to limit me, and I could do anything that anyone else could. They couldn't give extended time on homework because there were only so many days in the week. So I would stay up late, I would work until I would fall asleep, I would turn in what I completed, and I accepted the fact that I was going to get bad homework grades. Fortunately, I did really well on tests, and I was able to work my way through high school. Oh yeah, driver's ed. Initially, I got yanked out of that class for obvious reasons, but fortunately at the time, Texas was one of 10 progressive states that allowed low vision driving. My parents found this out, and they encouraged me to pursue this, along with the support of a wonderful eye doctor. My low vision doctor made the first of many pairs of bioptic glasses, which would allow me to get my license. And amazingly, there was a local private driver's ed school that had already taught somebody with my condition how to drive. So I was still able to get my license on time and move forward and at least feel some sort of sense of normalcy of a teenager. After high school, I went on to Texas A&M. I was encouraged to get involved once again. I was active in a lot of clubs, and for several years I was an officer in the Texas A&M Horsemen's Association. I had no experience with horses before going to college, but it seemed like fun, so why not? I also spent a few years building race cars for the Texas A&M Formula SAE team, and several of these cars went on to win national competitions. Towards the end of college, I needed to figure out what was next for me. I had chosen a career in the highway construction field, which requires a lot of driving, something that was going to be challenging for me because I didn't feel comfortable driving in unfamiliar situations. I knew that I was going to be moving on to another city and most likely another state. So I looked at all my options, all my job offers, and I chose to accept a job with Lawrence Construction Company, with whom I interned during college. And this was going to take me to Denver, Colorado. Lawrence, my uncle was the president and co-owner of Lawrence Construction, a multi-generational company that had been started in 1924. Like my parents, my aunt and uncle believed in me and were very supportive of me and all my goals. So I was so fortunate to begin my career working under an industry leader who was well respected and had so much knowledge to pass on. This man was known for thinking outside the box and pushing others to do so. Another thing that he was known for was saying can't hardly, to encourage people who were facing adversity and feeling like giving up on challenges. This man would never let me back down from a challenge, and for many years, he pushed me to learn all aspects of the business. During my time in Colorado, I was also encouraged to pursue my lifelong passions of boating, horsemanship, and skiing. I purchased my first home, a foreclosed horse property next to a beautiful lake and a state park. To say this house needed some work is a severe understatement. I was scared after purchasing this place and regretted my decision. But with my dog, Rusty, my brand new puppy by my side, I spent many years remodeling this home, but those are more stories for another time. Skiing. I love skiing. My family took me with them every weekend in the winter, and they pushed me to become a better and better skier to the point that I was more than just an avid skier, and I was encouraged to pursue a career in ski racing. I spent several years doing this on top of my full-time job. I won dozens of medals in all 4 alpine skiing events, including a national championship as a blind ski racer. Recently, I went on a first date. You may call it a blind date. Of course, every date's a blind date for me. And when I was telling her about my passions, skiing, and some of the other things I enjoy, she questioned this and accused me of being misleading, saying that someone whose vision has deteriorated to the point where they have to use a cane or a guide dog is not capable of living an active, independent life. That is further from the truth. I am living, breathing proof that anything you set your mind to is possible. Unfortunately, this was not the first person in my life who has said something negative like this. It's unfortunate that people will come into your life and tear you down. But that's where it's important for me to turn to my amazing friends, my family, and my faith to lift me up and push me forward and encourage me to keep working towards my goals. After over a decade in an industry I loved and working for a company in which I had so much pride, I was ready for a change because I noticed that my eyesight was changing ever so slightly, which was scary because as a teenager, I had been told by the doctors that my eyesight would never deteriorate any more than it had already. So I started looking at my options once again. My older sisters had both recently moved back to Texas with their families, and I thought it would be pretty special to be able to spend more time with my young nieces and nephew. My dad was so excited to tell me about all the growth in East Montgomery County and the construction of the brand new Grand Parkway. So I returned to my roots, and I started looking at my first high school job at the local Ace Hardware store. I spent the next 2 years mentoring under a group of amazing, experienced Ace retailers who work in one of the top stores in the country. They taught me all aspects of the business, from customer service to how to actually run a store, how to order, how to make sure you have the right inventory. I incorporated the practices and principles I learned from my many years hands-on at the construction company. And I spent a lot of time learning my community and how to build the best possible store for my customers. Building a store from the ground up can be very challenging. I faced so many issues, from problems with a contractor, major construction delays, a construction site surrounded by mud over a foot deep. Our initial product and fixtures were showing up before construction was finished, and there was no power in the building. So I looked at my experience in the construction business. I knew how to operate heavy equipment. I knew how to run an off-road forklift. So I accepted the challenge, and I did what I had to do to get things moving along, back on track, and get my business opened. When Jeff and Rusty's Ace Hardware finally opened, I realized right away that it was going to be very tough to operate a small business with a limited number of employees as someone who's legally blind. So I adapted. I found new ways to train my employees, market my business to my community, and do the best we could every day to provide excellent customer service. Two years into the business, I knew we were on the right track when we achieved the status of ACE Pinnacle Performing Retailer, the highest level of achievements that an ACE store can reach. And we have been able to maintain that every year since. We recently had our 5-year anniversary, and I am so proud of everything that my team and myself have accomplished. We continue every day to face new challenges, but we work hard to be the best hardware store this community needs. We're looking at growth opportunities in new markets, and we're also looking at ideas on how we can develop our property here in Porter to make it someplace that the community is going to love and enjoy. Over the past year, I've faced a number of personal challenges. My vision was declining again, and I had to accept this. As I approached my 40th birthday, I knew I was not going to be able to renew my driver's license. The worst part was 2 weeks before my birthday, my dog of 14 years, Rusty, passed away. Truth be told, these were some dark times. But I remembered my uncle's words. Can't hardly. So I looked into resources for the blind, and I made the decision to start my application for a guide dog. I have learned that the guide dog journey is much more complicated than I ever expected. It is more than just an application accompanied by reports from doctors, phone and in-person interviews, prerequisite training programs, and interviews of personal references, and lots of waiting. Going through this whole process brings up a lot of memories and forces you to talk about both good and bad experiences you have been through. I wish I felt more comfortable sharing my disability with people years ago. I wish I had had access to resources like the orientation mobility program I recently completed with Leader Dogs for the Blind. As I have gone through the guide dog process, I've realized that it is extremely complicated and brings with it a lot of emotions. But I've had the opportunity to build relationships with instructors and clients at a couple different guide dog programs. It has forced me to realize that I've been dealing with this for over 25 years, and I have a lot of experience to share with people. It makes me feel really good to be able to give back and encourage people and help them work through problems that they think are insurmountable. But when they see that I've gone through this, I see the confidence in them now. And it makes me realize that my struggles are worth it if I can make things that much easier for other people. When I was getting ready for this speech, I thought back about a college essay I wrote. When I was 17 years, I wrote an essay called Life is About Challenges. I was really curious to look back at this and see what kind of perspective young Jeff had on what life challenges were. I was actually kind of impressed. He ended the essay by saying, Challenges in life are what make it interesting. And achieving victories in the face of obstacles are all the more rewarding. I really appreciate you having me here today, giving me the time to share my story with you. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. My Dogs for the Blind. And then I started the process with Leader Dogs for the Blind. Leader Dogs had a hard prerequisite of completing their orientation and mobility training program up in Rochester, Michigan. So by mid-January, I had been approved for a guide dog with GDB. After I completed the training with Leader Dogs, I had to wait 1 month before applying for a dog. So during that time period, I needed to practice my cane skills, and with the help of my wonderful friend Ashley here, she helped me film my application video that I submitted, showing a route that I was walking with my cane and my ability to identify different traffic intersections and travel safely by myself. So I submitted my application then to Leader Dogs, and about a month later I received board approval from them, so I'm on a wait list with both schools. My hope is that I will find out that I get my match with Leader Dogs. It is a 3-week program, whereas Guide Dogs is 2 weeks. A lot of y'all may think, great, 2 weeks is shorter than 3 weeks, why not do that? Training weeks are very exhausting and very emotional, and forming that bond with a new dog that you're going to fly home with across country at the end of it, there's a lot going on there. So I want to give myself the best opportunity. So that's why I'm so happy that Leader Dogs, I got caught up. I'm waiting on them. So now I'm waiting on a match. A match comes from the dog trainers. They look at things like personality, walking speed, and lifestyle. And when they feel that they have a dog that is about to complete their training, that is going to be a good match for you, that's when they call and tell you that you need to show up for training in the next couple weeks.
Hey Jeff.
Yes?
You brought up something that I didn't even really think about. There's service dogs, but then there's dogs for your, so that it's not just a service dog, it's a,
Yeah.
is there somebody then, is there a special breed of dog that does best for people,
Okay.
you know?
Yeah, great questions. So guide dogs, there is a distinct differentiation between service dogs. Guide dogs, service dogs typically will provide some sort of acknowledgement that someone with a medical condition may be about to have a seizure, or maybe about to faint, things like that. Guide dogs carry a lot of responsibility. Not only do they have to be capable of following commands and leading someone around, but they're also trained on what's called intelligent disobedience. So if they're given a command by their blind handler to do something and they realize it's unsafe, so a car comes around a corner, when they're given the command to cross the street and guide you, they're trained to recognize that's an unsafe condition, and they will disobey your command and keep you in a safe place. So there are a lot of dogs that are trained and do really well. They get to the point where they're close to passing their final guide dog test, but they fail for whatever reason. So they career change these dogs, and a lot of them do become service dogs. They become law enforcement dogs, therapy dogs, whatever. As far as breeds go, typically Labradors, Golden Retrievers, or a mix of the two. For many years, German Shepherds have been used, but recently programs have gotten away from those. In fact, Leader Dogs for the Blind made the decision in 2023 to stop using German Shepherds. And when I was there in January, they had their last litter of German Shepherd puppies. The reason why, twofold. German Shepherds tend to bond with one person. So the process when a guide dog litter is born, or a potential guide dog litter is born, at 8 weeks old, they go to a puppy raiser who trains them basic life skills and obedience, basic commands, socialization over the first year of their life. And then they go back to the school and they work with trainers to then become trained on how to be a guide dog. After that, then they go to their new handler. So all these transitions can be very difficult for a German Shepherd. So that's one of the reasons why that change has been made. The other one is public perception. I was not aware that apparently a lot of people are scared of German Shepherds because they look intimidating. So blind handlers would be walking down the street with their German Shepherd guide, and people would panic and run away. And so for obvious reasons, they didn't think that was good, so they decided to stick with Labradors and Goldens.
Thank you so much,
Yep,
Jeff. But
thank you,
I'm
everyone.
sure